Hi, I'm Zachary Farnell. Thank you for joining me for another edition of your Timberland weather update, where the biggest story in weather across New England the last couple of days has been the extreme heat and the humidity on top of it. Some of those heat index values that we rely on to see how hot it feels for us yesterday, they nearly reached 100 degrees across interior portions of New England. Thankfully, some of that heat has died down today, but for your prom forecast tomorrow, I'm expecting some of that heat to build back up into the mid-80s with some pretty solid humidity. Now, with that humidity comes a lot of thunderstorms, and we're going to see a couple severe ones across Maine today before we break down a couple tornado outbreaks across the central U.S. coming up this weekend. We've got a busy schedule, so let's break this down piece by piece. We're going to start in Maine today. This is a storm prediction forecast put out by the Storm Prediction Center. They are in Oklahoma City and they specialize on thunderstorms specifically. So in this green area that includes almost all of New Hampshire, including our district down there, this is where we're expecting a level 1 out of 5 risk for severe thunderstorms. That means that in this area, there is a low chance of severe thunderstorms occurring, but still a chance. Looking out towards Maine, that yellow highlighted section, that is a level 2 out of 5 risk. That area is where we're currently seeing, as I record this right now, a strong line of severe thunderstorms forming. That forecast is panning out for a significant amount of hail and wind to hit in towards the eastern part of Maine. That is a pretty strong impacting system. As for us in this district, it looks like the line's going to stay to our north, and a couple thunderstorms have been firing up in the south across Boston today. Those are expected to stay south of us, so I'm expecting little to no rain from this whatsoever, maybe a rumble of thunder, and if we do get a shower or two, it'll be late this evening into tonight. Let's get back to the regularly scheduled broadcast that we normally see. We'll break down, first of all, the heat that we saw yesterday. You can see much of the area much of the area of New England just about as hot up here as it was down into the south. As you look across, not quite Florida, they've been dealing with a very hot spring, but looking towards the Carolinas and Georgia in general, they got mid-80s, we got mid-80s, maybe even some 90s across much of our area. So an extremely hot day for us, and that's going to continue surging into tonight. So last night we saw some of that heat just continuing across the area, and although it is generally a lot cooler at night, only breaking down into the 70s, Now today has been a little bit of a different story. You've seen some especially cooler temperatures in towards the coastal areas of New England, and that's because, again, that storm system to the south producing a whole lot of clouds over much of New England, and those clouds are keeping the heat trapped high above the ground and keeping the air temperatures down here towards the low 80s. That will discontinue tomorrow, and we see much of this heat trapped in the south today surge back up the east coast for our forecast on the 5-day for prom tomorrow, which you'll see in a few minutes. On the satellite, you can see these severe storms that are firing up in Maine. A little bit difficult to see just because they're a little bit shadowed, but all the way up there you can see a couple of storms firing up, and to our south you can still see a couple of those remnants of what was a pretty strong line that went through New York City. Again, mostly some heavy rain for Boston right now as we speak. So on the fronts map, you can begin to see why we're getting so many strong storms. This cold front moving through today, it actually not going to do much at all as it continues to push through to fire up some storms tonight. By the time we get towards tomorrow, this low pressure system pushes out to our east, and we begin to see the remnants of any rain falling out. This big time low pressure system fires up a whole lot of rain and thunderstorms across the central U.S. That continues as we get in towards Saturday, and we begin to become concerned for some severe weather threats. Consistent rain across much of the eastern central part of the country, but I'm going to highlight this area right across central Oklahoma, and we're going to break down what's happening there very quickly. Right now, again, the same people that did our forecast for us up here, the Storm Prediction Center, focused in Oklahoma, right in the middle of that orange spot you're seeing right there. They have put out a forecast for this upcoming Saturday, a level 3 out of 5 on the severe weather chances, this is mainly tornado driven. So if we do see this verify as a very strong weather outbreak, it'll be because a number of strong tornadoes have moved across Oklahoma and Kansas. I expect this risk to actually increase as it looks like the weather models are getting more and more aggressive on just how strong this system could be. And this system's not going to be done yet. As we get into the fronts map once again, here is Sunday. You see this low pressure system sitting across the central U.S. Look at the lightning bolts stretching all the way out from the central U.S. to the coast out towards Maryland. And again, I'm worried about a pretty widespread section of the central U.S. for another chance of severe weather. Now, because this one's so far out from where we stand today, this is, again, this upcoming Sunday, they only do it in percents, but this yellow you see generally correlates to a level 2 or 3 out of 5, and that orange you see in there, a level 3 or 4 out of 5. I would be surprised if they do not take this to a level 4 out of 5. Again, another very strong chance for a number of tornadoes to move across the central U.S. This coming right off of another tornado outbreak in Iowa. So continuing to see some systems pushing across the central U.S. Eventually, this one will move through our area as we get in towards the 5-day forecast. You'll see not a whole lot of thunderstorms next week, but some rain showers for sure. With those rain showers, you see a pretty significant cool down, but let's start with your prom forecast. Tomorrow, Friday, prom day, it's sunny and it's 85. Sadly, the humidity will still be around and it'll feel more like the low 90s, but by the time it's that evening time, it might be pretty nice for a prom. Getting in towards the rest of the week and the weekend, for us as the severe weather kicks off across the central U.S., we're staying in towards the mid to upper 70s. Generally some sunshine beginning to turn over to clouds on Sunday. Expect a couple isolated rain showers on Monday and Tuesday as we cool down in towards the 60s. A warm up on Tuesday is followed by a slow cool down as we get in towards mid next week, with some showers persisting on Wednesday. A then slow ramp up in temperatures once again brings us only into the mid 70s as we get towards next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So a pretty consistent and nice pattern begins to set into our area over the next week or two. Hopefully this forecast stays, because if it does, we'll be out of the woods for any 90, 95 degree days for the next couple of weeks. And hopefully that central U.S. is beginning to make their preparations for what could be another extremely strong round of tornadoes and severe weather in general. I'm Zachary Farnell. Thank you for joining me for another edition of your Timberlane Weather Update. Signing off.